Here in California's capital city, so many people have connections to President George H.W. Bush, including Doug Elmitz, who worked in the Bush administration and also the Reagan administration when George H.W. Bush was the vice president. And he joins us live now from his home in Sacramento County. Doug, we appreciate you joining us at this late hour. We know you're doing this to honor your former boss. So let's start with how you describe his legacy.
Well, I mean, he was clearly from an era gone by, and you really sort of juxtapose the war hero he was and the humble attitude he had to really the current state of affairs in America now. And you really do wish that you could have him here now to be that lasting sort of legacy forever.
And you started working for him when you were back in college, and
Right.
He'd been campaigning against Ronald Reagan at the time.
Right.
And so what drew you to his campaign?
Well, interestingly, he appointed Mary Louise Smith as the very first woman as the chairman of the Republican National Committee, and she was a family friend of mine from Des Moines, and that was my connection. A lot of people really didn't know George Bush, other than the fact that he had been the ambassador to China. He had been the chairperson of the Republican National Committee, but he was such a unique individual, and for some reason, really early on in the campaign, and you know, I was really the start of the presidential campaign. He was just somebody who really connected with people. And one of the things I really found when I interacted with him on the campaign and then later as he was vice president and as president is that, you know, when you were talking to him, you really felt like you were the center of the universe. There could be things going on around you, but he really had you really focused. And it was just such a unique individual, somebody I'd never really come in contact with since.
You touched on this at a time that our nation feels very divided. I think part of what we honor with the 41st president is the dignity and the warmth that he brought to the office. So you mentioned he was someone who would create those personal connections. What are some of the other things that you remember about working for him?
Well, I mean, he was amazingly humble. He wrote handwritten notes to everybody. Truly, really, I think up until his death, he was handwriting notes or at least dictating notes. It was just such a unique person. And I mean, how many people do you know actually write a handwritten note now? It's either a text or an email. I think that it's just an era that has gone by. And I do think a lot of Americans hearken back to that. He was one of the last presidents who was really, truly an American war hero. When I started working for him at 18, I reflected on the fact that when he was 18, he had been shot down over the Pacific. I mean, amazing to think that somebody like that could rise to the level that he did and become the really lasting legacy of a president that he was.
Yeah, he demonstrated leadership so early on.
Right.
Well, Doug, I mean, and this kind of goes into what you're talking about right now, but on a personal level, I mean, how do you hope people will remember George Herbert Walker Bush?
Yeah, I hope that they will remember him as a humble, civil servant, somebody who served the nation, who did not believe in bragging about himself, his wealth, his family. What he believed in is serving the country. And he was actually one of the first presidents to really look at disability rights and make certain that people with disabilities were you know, reflected positively in society. And I think that those are the legacies that anybody would want to leave. And the fact that he left that legacy, I think, is a credit to our nation.
Yeah, of course, you're talking about the American with Disabilities Act. That is a lasting legacy that we see even through today. Doug Elmitz, you got to have a front row seat to history for quite a while back in the day, and we just thank you for joining us tonight to talk about the passing of the president.
Thank you so much.